No one really talks about Generation X. We argue endlessly about boomers, dissect millennials, and analyze Gen Z like a brand new psychological experiment. But Gen X just exists in the middle, barely mentioned, almost invisible. They're your older coworkers who never complain, your parents who seem oddly detached, the people who built the early internet but don't feel the need to post about their lives. And strangely enough, their psychology may be the most misunderstood of any living generation. Picture being 8 years old in 1978. You get off the school bus and walk into an empty house. Both parents are working. There's no phone in your pocket, no way for anyone to check if you're okay. You let yourself in, make a snack, do your homework alone, and wait. By the early 1980s, around 7 million children between the ages of 5 and 13 were regularly unsupervised after school. That wasn't neglect, that was normal. An entire generation quietly learned that you can't always count on someone being there. That empty house did more than make Gen X independent. It trained their brains. Psychologists describe this kind of upbringing as a high-contingency environment, where actions and consequences are tightly linked, with no buffer time and no emotional cushioning. Step out of line and you paid for it immediately. There were no long talks about feelings, no endless negotiations. Over time, their brains learned to predict outcomes quickly, to think several steps ahead, and to take responsibility early. That's why Gen X often appears calm in chaos. They've been managing risks since childhood. But then came the contradiction. They watched their parents promise stability while divorce rates soared. They saw people give their lives to companies, only to be laid off without warning. They were told to work hard, follow the rules, and everything would work out, only to watch the rules change in real time. Psychologists might label it defensive pessimism, but Gen X would simply call it realism. They hope for good things quietly, but deep down they expect the rug to be pulled out, because experience taught them that it often is. This mindset explains why Gen X stays largely silent on social media. They grew up in a world where privacy was normal and mistakes didn't follow you forever. Embarrassment stayed local. The idea of broadcasting your life to strangers doesn't feel exciting to them. It feels risky. They learned early that the less people know about you, the safer you are. Humor and irony became their armor, a way to keep emotional distance without fully shutting down. They also grew up under the shadow of the Cold War, practicing duck and cover drills while adults insisted everything was fine. When authority figures tell you not to worry while clearly preparing for disaster, you learn to hold two opposing ideas at once. That contradiction trained Gen X to stay emotionally detached, alert, and skeptical, always prepared for things to fall apart. Despite all this, Gen X developed a work ethic that rarely gets talked about. They don't post about it, they don't brand it, they just do the work. Paper routes at dawn, grocery store jobs, fast food registers where you had to calculate change in your head when the system broke. They don't believe in company loyalty because they watched it fail, but they believe deeply in competence. If everything can disappear overnight, the one thing you can control is being useful. There's a quiet paradox at the core of Gen X psychology. They are intensely independent, yet deeply collaborative. They won't ask for help because asking feels like weakness, but if someone else needs help, they show up without drama or recognition. They respect authority only when it's earned. Titles mean nothing, skill means everything. Economically, they've been hit again and again. The dot crash, the 2008 financial crisis, endless corporate restructuring. That's why many Gen Xers rely on multiple income streams, not because it's trendy, but because they learned that nothing lasts. Even as parents, they carry this tension. They gave their children the attention they never had, but sometimes worry they made them too protected, too visible. In the Gen X worldview, visibility often equals vulnerability. Generation X isn't better than other generations. They're just different, shaped by a moment in history when the old world was breaking down and the new one hadn't fully arrived. They're the bridge generation, and bridges don't get celebrated. They don't speak loudly. They just hold everything together, quietly, without asking to be noticed. And maybe that's the most Gen X thing of all.